Top tier premium packs just went on sale for 50% off right now in the GAIJIN store. I'm going to do a quick little guide on just the top tier premium packs, so if they can research the highest tier right now in the game, that's going to be either a rank 7 or a rank 8 premium. That's what I'm covering in this video. If they're not mentioned in the video, it's because I don't really recommend them and you're just going to want to buy those at your own risk, and or I just don't think that the tech tree is worth it in the slightest for you to even buy them in the first place. As always, if you are going to buy one of these packs, I would really appreciate if you use my link in the description down below. You won't get the 3% off this time since they're already half off, but I'll get a little bit of a cut and you get the decal on screen. And as much as I would love if you used my link, at least use somebody's link. I'm sure they would really appreciate that. So starting off with the US tech tree, it is a phenomenal tech tree. You can find something worth playing at pretty much every battle rating. If you're not interested in top tier, just like all of the tech trees, I wouldn't really recommend picking up one of these top tier packs. You can definitely find a cheaper way to get to the plane you want by not buying the most expensive premium. But as far as top tier premiums go, that's the only way you're going to be getting premium research on the top tier, just like F15 and whatnot. So I would recommend for most people probably the F5C right now. There are a few caveats to that. Of course, if you're brand new to the game and you just want to get into missile combat as fast as possible and you're not really experienced dogfighting or getting gun kills or anything like that, maybe look into the F4S. It's just right now, personally, I don't really like playing the F4S in its current matchmaker. Sure, it's a missile bus and that's the only way it really ever got its kills, but it's only just been that much more unfun for me to play, given that it faces IRCCM missiles pretty frequently, Fox 3 missiles pretty frequently, and of course AIM-54 Phoenixes, which are also Fox 3s pretty much every game. The matchmaker isn't particularly kind. You get up tiers to 12.7 fairly often, and at the end of the day, like I said, if you do want something that's kind of brain off missile gameplay, then that might be the better option. It's still going to be a good grinder for getting to top tier. I just don't think it is nearly as fun as the F5C, and as long as you're somewhat experienced at the game, I think you will have a much more efficient grind and get your RP even faster in the F5C because it's actually competitive for its battle rating of 10.7. 10.7 gets up tiered into 11.0 and 11.3 quite often, but it still holds up quite well even in those up tiers. It doesn't really ever see 11.7 too often, and it holds its own just fine in 11.3, so very competitive plane. I do recommend. As far as the F20A goes, I would probably avoid that one altogether, again, unless you really want to experience some higher tier gameplay. I just don't see much of a reason in purchasing that thing. It's 12.7, it's the same battle rate as the F16, just worse in every way. You're going to be fighting Fox 3 missiles all of the time. That's going to make it very unenjoyable for you to play, and I would probably just shy away from that one. Moving on to Germany, I would recommend the MiG-21 bis Laser. I think this plane is fantastic for 11.0. It's certainly up there amongst the best airframes for the battle rating. The only thing that's really going to give you a hard time ever is going to be things like MiG-23 MLs and J7Es, but those are 11.3s. So at 11.0, your own battle rating, you're kind of top dog for most of what you're going to be seeing as far as dogfights and flight performance goes. The missile kit isn't anything too crazy. You get R60Ms, which are pretty flare hungry, but I would recommend supplementing those with two R13Ms as well. They have much further range than the R60. They're a lot faster, giving your opponent less time to react to your missile and therefore probably is less likely to flare it, and it's just a little more difficult to flare in general than the R60. The only thing is they are rear aspect only, but again, I think it's definitely worth taking two of those to supplement your 4 R60Ms. You do have other options, but they're pretty much just ground strike planes, the Su-22 and the Tornado. I don't recommend those, especially not the Tornado. I would just go for the MiG-21 bis myself. That's of course because I'm a PvP player. If you like brain off ground pounding, then honestly it doesn't really matter which plane you buy. Your gameplay experience is going to be pretty much the same for the most part. Though if I had to put a label on it, I would say the Tornado is going to be the better ground attack plane. Again though, I would definitely recommend the MiG-21 bis out of all of them by far. The matchmaker is extremely favorable, being 11.0 just like the F5C, and you almost never see any up tiers. An extremely competitive plane for its battle rating, and is definitely going to be helping you grind the German tech tree, which is actually worth grinding now at top tier since they have the Eurofighter Typhoon. I'm sure a lot of you guys are going to be looking forward to grinding that. As for the USSR tech tree, you pretty much only have one option once again, and that's the MiG-23 ML. While this plane has certainly seen better days, it used to be a lot better than it is now. It's still a pretty good plane, and it's going to be a consistent grinder for you to research the USSR tech tree with, so I do recommend it. It gets the R-24T missiles, which are very often too free kills at the 11.3 battle rating. As long as you use them at the correct time, it's pretty easy to get somebody that just doesn't pay attention to you from a pretty far range with no indication the missile is coming. So that alone is pretty much 2 easy kills for your grind, but other than that, you still have a pretty competitive airframe. Not the best anymore necessarily, but for 11.3 battle rating, it does the job just fine. You get a lot of countermeasures, they're large caliber, and you're backed up by 4 R60Ms. You can of course still use the R24Rs instead of the T, but personally I like rocking the T these days now that the MTI mode on the MiG-23ML only works when you're looking down at the target against the ground. Overall, again, if you're looking to research the USSR tech tree, it's probably not going to be the most fun plane to play in the game, but it is going to be an efficient grinder, and I think it's certainly going to be better than trying to do it free to play, especially if it's half off. You also have an Su-39 at rank 7 in the premium line as well. You could opt for, but I would not recommend it. Even if you're a brain off, go for the ground target kind of guy and you like PvE base bombing, the Su-39 is still subsonic and slow, so it's very likely your teammates are going to be beating you to the bases anyway. If you're a ground RB player, sure, that's probably the only person that I would say the Su-39 makes sense for, but as far as air realistic battle grinding, stick with the MiG-23ML and just learn how to play PvP. For the British tech tree, they also have a Eurofighter Typhoon, and I would The Japanese tech tree is not horrible by any means, and I would understand a lot of people want to grind it, but when it comes to their premiums, there's not really one in particular I would recommend, at least not from the top tier packs, and therefore I'm going to have to pass on these, and I would just say buy one at your own risk if you're going to do so. I personally do not think either of them are very good. Neither competitive for their battle ratings, nor particularly strong grinders. So with that being said, let's move on to China carrying the #1 favorite plane. You might even say #1 J7D, and the J7D in my opinion is probably the strongest premium you can buy right now, at least of the top tier packs. This plane is extremely competitive for its battle rating of 10.7. It's got the same battle rating as the MiG-21 MF and SMT, but it has better missiles and a better RWR. Not to mention it also has a little bit more countermeasures, and the flight performance is pretty much the same as the SMT. They're very similar, all three of them, the J7D, the SMT, and the MF. Very similar planes, they pretty much fly the same, and they're still very competitive airframes at the 10.7 to 11.3 battle rating ranges. Personally, I just think the J7D is the most competitive premium for its battle rating in the entire game. Sure, it's 10.7 and very often it sees 11.3, but the plane holds up very well in these 11.3 matches, and you almost never see 11.7 games. It's pretty easy to have success in it when it comes to the air-to-air kills, and because of that, you're going to be getting a lot of RP, a lot of Silver Lions. You're going to grind the tree pretty fast. It's just going to be an enjoyable plane while simultaneously giving you premium research toward top tier. I genuinely cannot say enough good things about the J7D right now, of course, until GAIJIN probably changes all of the battle ratings again 2 weeks after this sale. I cannot recommend any of the top tier packs for Italy, so the tech tree is good and it definitely is worth a grind in my opinion, but on the other hand, the premiums I would not personally buy, so we're going to be skipping that. And moving on to France, this is more of an honorable mention, and I'm not even going to include any gameplay. The Mirage F1C might be something you want to pick up. This was a plane that I thought was an extremely good grinder in its old matchmaker, but now that the battle ratings have all moved around and the matchmakers are different, it's just not got the same touch anymore. Sure, the Magic 2 can still get you a couple consistent kills, and for that reason alone, I think it might be a decent grinder for you to grind out the French tech tree. But other than that, its missile kit is very poor outside of those Magic 2s, and its ground strike capability for bombing bases and such is also quite limited due to the fact that it is rather slow when it does have all that ground ordnance on there, and very often your teammates will be beating you to bases. It's not something I really enjoyed risking. If you are going to pick up the Mirage F1C, I would probably just try to stick to getting your magic kills, die, go next, or maybe stay in the game as long as possible for that extra RP. Either way, this is something that I would say more so buy at your own risk. I didn't personally find it very enjoyable, nor particularly effective in today's matchmaker. Moving on to Sweden, we have two very poor options once again, and honestly I don't even see the Swedish tech tree being that intriguing of a top tier to research anymore. The Gripen, a fantastic plane in many ways, but it falls short in one big category, and that is the fact it carries only 4 active radar homing missiles. And this can be still usable, you're going to have some good games in it for yourself, but as far as impacting the game for the good of your team, you're quite limited, and I don't really enjoy playing the Gripen anymore. Nonetheless, if you are going to play out the Gripen, I don't think the Viggen nor the J-35 XS are good pickups. I think both of them are pretty miserable to play, but at least the Viggen gives you the ability to let the missiles play for you, so that might be something you have going for you there. But other than that, again, I don't really recommend buying either of these, and I don't think top tier Sweden is particularly worth the grind, especially so when you can find Gripens with AMRAAMs and other tech trees. Finishing it off with Israel, this is one that I do actually recommend and I think it's worth playing, the Kafir Canard. So if you want to grind the Israeli tech tree, which I don't think is a bad tech tree by any means, the Kafir Canard is still a pretty competitive plane. Not as good as it was in the old matchmaker. It's now at 11.0 battle rating, and of course all things got moved around really, so it's nothing like it used to be. The flight performance is definitely one of the best still at its battle rating, even at 11.0. It's extremely strong in that department. I would say that its countermeasures is a little bit lower than you'd like to see, though personally I never found it to be an issue even in today's matchmaker. I do carry 1 or 2 pops of chaff, and then other than that it's all flares. I only carry that chaff for AIM-9Cs, that way I can climb, still orbital strike with those AIM-9Gs, shoot top down from 4 kilometers away, and it usually works with some success. Only having 2 missiles does kind of suck, and because of that, like the F5C, I would recommend it more to people that are a lot more experienced with the game. They know how to dogfight, they know how to use their guns, that type of thing, because that will be a way you get a lot of your kills. Even if 2 of your AIM-9Gs hit, there's still the potential to get 3, 4, 5 more kills with those guns, so you definitely want to be able to do that. So until the matchmakers change or the battle ratings change, this is my current recommended list for top tier premium packs. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. What have you bought? What have you enjoyed? What do you not recommend? And of course, take care. Happy grinding.